Yeah, I know that things like these are very emotional, and especially when it comes to children and wanting to keep our children safe. But as someone who has been extensively taught how to navigate around grooming and the subtleties of grooming, she ironically did an excellent job not coaching him. And I think because the emotions are so high, people might have a little bit of confirmation bias. But all I saw in that video was a mother who held space for a very frightened child to share a narrative. She didn't have any big reactions because children actually shut down when you have really big reactions. She kept her voice low. Whenever he would say something or stumble, she would remind him of what he said. She never initiated any incidents that he didn't say first. So she really did an excellent job of not coaching this child. It sounds to me like he was scared, and maybe his cousin or whoever else was scared, and they were just making up lies and couldn't keep track of them. I know adults who can't keep track of their lies, but nowhere in this did I hear a malicious mother grooming or coaching, and I was waiting for that. So that video actually made me side with her even more. And I think because Duty is probably upset about being falsely accused, he
Hmm.
can't see it clearly that way. But she didn't coach him at all. I was listening for it. She didn't.
Well, I mean, the challenge here is that we didn't see it, right? We saw a
Yeah.
clip, an audio. We didn't see the people. We didn't see what led up to it. We don't know what happened before that audio clip was taken. And a lot of chain of events have happened afterwards that makes this even more complicated. I think when you
Hmm.
say that a man put screws up a small kid's anus, there will be some type of scarring or some type of damage done that can be found. We have a copy of the public records request, and we went through it, and I shared it with both of you. And in there, she's the assistant state attorney Lauren Kovitz says on December 15, 2021, that she's declining the case because there's a reasonable likelihood of conviction. And she goes into outlining why they couldn't find the evidence. And so, I want to be with you, Blue. I want to believe nobody would coach a kid to say something like this. But we've also seen in the world that we live in today that there are sick people out there. I'm not saying that this woman is sick because I've never met her, but there are sick people out there that do sick things or make sick claims. And so now we're kind of looking at this thing without a full
Yeah.
bird's eye view of it. And I don't know. I'm not fully convinced.
I want to speak more to those court documents too, because in those documents, the child himself said he's left home often and he makes food on his own. He's not even 6 years old. And unfortunately, being a father myself, what I think this is a cry for attention.
Hmm.
My son has never went to a drastic measure like this, but my son has definitely made up lies when he was just wanting simple attention. We're all working. Even when this event happened, she said she was in another state at a show and he was left with a roommate and Doodie Lo. That it sounds like this could be a cry for attention. Now I don't know, as we're all speculating here, but it sounds like a cry for attention, and I feel like the mother and Doodie Lo themselves can possibly both be victims of this young boy's story of him just simply wanting attention, and he's not understanding the magnitude of this because he's not on social media. He's a 5-year-old, and I feel
He's
like
also
that's what's happening here.
I agree. I two truths can be on it, can be this can coexist. And one of the things that we have to be really really careful about is using terms like defamation. Legally speaking, defamation has to have malicious intent. And so Duty Low can't take a lie detector test in which by the way, lie detector tests are not even permissible in a lot of courts because there are very hard but possible ways to deceive a lie detector test, right? But if he's expecting us to exonerate him on a lie detector test saying that he didn't do it, then he can then not in the next breath tell us to ignore a lie detector tests that prove that she didn't have malicious intent. So you have to live and die by
Mhm.
that same sword. That same sword that exonerating you is also exonerating her. And that's the part where we have to admit that sometimes horrible things happen and there's no one to blame. And it's a child, so we can't blame a child. His frontal lobe hasn't even congealed yet. And to be perfectly honest, Damage, reading those court documents, I was a latchkey kid. My own mother left me to like cook my own food when I was like 5 or 6 because she was working as a cleaning lady trying to make money to pay rent when we first moved to America. And if I had lied to her, she would have believed me and had to have taken a lie detector test to know I was lying. And so there's a difference between being a mother who's overwhelmed and having a child who's having a cry for help versus being a malicious person who is trying to intentionally bring a man down. And defamation needs malicious intent. And that lie detector test said she didn't have it. So he
Well,
doesn't
I
have a
think
case, in my opinion.
there's a couple things. There's a couple things. One, a lie detector test is not admissible in legal court when it comes to dealing with a conviction or potential conviction, but it is you can put it into, I believe, a civil court. So there's civil and
Yes.
criminal court proceedings that we're talking about, which are different. My mother left me home at 6 years old, and I remember cooking on the stove. And I also remember my sister burning her hand on the stove when we were by ourselves. And also, when I was molested, I was with a babysitter. So two things can be true. But in this case, this kid was cooking macaroni and cheese on a hot stove at 5 years old or whatever age. And there's a certain level of neglect here that leads me to believe that there's more to think about and consider here. If you're a woman who's leaving your kid home with a man that you just met, because it doesn't even sound like they were together for a long time. And he talks about this in the interview. How do you leave your son home with a stranger? I mean, where's the shared responsibility if something in fact did happen? Because ultimately, this is why I always say about having a kid, I can't have a kid because I'm going to constantly be in a state of worry about where my kid is at.